In Perek Aleph, in the middle of Pasuk Dalid, where Elimelech and Naomi, their two children, Elimelech already passed away, their two children now married Noshim Moyaviyos. We mentioned last time different opinions if they were Megayer them first or not. I saw a very interesting pshat, which is like a Bacher pshat in a way, or a Bacher attitude in a way, that it says that they were not Megayer them, rather they married them when they were non-Jewish because they didn't want to do an Aveira. That doesn't make sense. How does that make sense? Because at this time there was an opinion by many Yidden that a Mayavis, a woman from Mayav, when she becomes a Geyeres, cannot marry a Jew. We spoke about this then, that the halacha is that only a man of Mayav that becomes a Ger Tzedek cannot marry a Jewish woman. But a woman from Mayav that becomes a Geyeres is allowed to marry a Jewish man. But there were many opinions that felt not so. So Machlin and Killian felt if she's going to become a Geyeres, then it's Aveda to marry her. But she's a Shiksa, no Machlin Shtois. So that's like a very strange approach, but that's some Mefarshim say that they dafke were Megayer her. This way, Kivyochel, it's less of an Aveda to marry her, which obviously is wrong. Al Kolpanim, that's what they said. So who did they marry? Who are the two women that they married? Shem ha'achas Arpa, v'shem ha'shenis Rus. They married these two women. Who married who? So they were two brothers, Machlin and Kilyon. And it's a lot of differences of opinions who was older. It's clear, it says later clearly in the Megilah that Rus is the one that married Machlon and Kilyon married Arpa. Who got married first? It seems to be that Kilyon, who's the younger brother, married Arpa first and then Machlon married Rus. Who were these two women? So some say, it says in Chazal, that they were the daughters of Egloin. Who was Egloin? The Fatso. Yeah, the big Fatso, the king of Mayav, that he was killed by Ehud ben Gera. Now, if Boyaz, who is going to be later in the story, is indeed Iftzon, which means that he was about 100 years after the story of Ehud ben Gera, but more than 100 years. So in that case, if Eglon was killed 100 years ago, and these are his daughters, then something is a bit off over here. If Rus and Arpa are 100 years old. So, however, in many places, Chazal seem to, from the Mefarshim, it seems they weren't necessarily daughters, they were granddaughters or even descendants, or even great-granddaughters. So they were descendants of Eglon. Now, it seems to be in some places they're put together as if they're sisters. But in some places it doesn't make them as sisters, so it's unclear to me, meaning they were both descendants of Eglon, but were they mamish sisters or not, it's unclear. If they were sisters, it comes out something very interesting. Because we'll see later on about Arpa, but now we can say it, Arpa does not become a Geyeres, she stays amongst the Moav, she gets married to someone else, we don't know who, and then she has 4 sons that are tremendous giants and warriors. One of them is the famous Goliath. Who kills Goliath? David. David is the descendant of Rus. According to this, David HaMelech was Goliath's first cousin twice removed, biologically. David HaMelech's great-grandmother was Rus, and Arpa's mother is Rus, and if indeed Rus and Arpa are sisters, that means David's grandfather was Goliath's first cousin. So, family fight. But that would be an interesting thing if they were Taka's sisters, but it's unclear if they were sisters, they were just descendants of Eglon. They were for sure related according to Chazal because they were both descendants of Eglon. Oh, mitzvah that. We're talking about biologic. At this point they're related. So there's the two wives, the two women are Arpa and Rus. And the pasuk says, "Vayesh v'sham ke'eser shonim," which means even though Elimelech had passed away right away, which means that they understood that they were punished for leaving Eretz Yisrael, but they still decided to settle in Chutz La'aretz in Moav, and they're not going back. And it seems like part of the reason is because the hunger was still going on. Even though it was 10 years, but it was a very long hunger, a very long drought, and that's why they weren't interested in going back to Eretz Yisrael, and they decided they're staying here in Moav. Now, to point out that Rus and Arpa, we said they were either daughters or granddaughters or descendants of royalty, they were very chashuv people. They were very chashuv people. For Rus and Arpa to marry a random visitor doesn't make so much sense. It must be that Rus and Arpa felt Machlon and Kilyan are also royalty. They're Jewish royalty, but they're also royalty. So it was a chashuv for them to marry into this family of Naomi and Elimelech, because even though we're different societies, these are Jewish, these are Maya, but we're both royalty. So many times you have, especially in the past, we have different kingdoms would marry into each other to solidify, to connect themselves. In general, till today, it's like that. Usually wealthy families marry into wealthy families. So similarly over here, it was like a good shidduch, it made sense. So they lived there they lived together for about 8 years, about 10 years. It says Ke'eser Shanim. Interesting. Usually in Torah it doesn't say like something. Usually the numbers are more clear how much it is. Here it says Ke'eser Shanim, more or less. They lived for 10 years, and then Pasuk Hey Vayomusu Gam Shneim Machlin V'Kilyon. Then they both of them die as well. So there's something interesting to point out. According to what we're saying, that Rus and Erpa were indeed sisters, it comes out that Machlin and Kilin, two brothers married two sisters. Is that allowed? Anybody knows?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah, but they can't live in the same city.
Very good. It's allowed, but it's brought down in Savas Sevida they should not live in the same city. So therefore, and it says that it's a bad sign, it's like dangerous. So it could be that part of the reason why they died is because of this thing. I didn't see this anywhere, but it's just an observation. If they were Bechlal sisters. But the Pasuk says they also died. What's the also dying? In addition to whom? In addition to Elimelech, but seemingly this is 10 years later. Someone dies within, or by corona, he died, all within a few months they died. But here, 10 years later, he also died. We're all going to die in eventually. What's the also? So Chazal say, and Rashi brings it, also means that in addition to something else happened. And that is, they started losing all their money. Remember, they were a wealthy family. They left Eretz Yisrael with their wealth. And what happened was, over the 10 years, they slowly started losing all their money, and they became very, very poor. And in addition to losing all their money and becoming poor, they also died. And this is trying to bring out, as we'll see later, the Maila of Rus and Arpa. That Rus and Arpa married into this royal family. And now, royal family comes with wealth. Now, slowly they're losing all their money. And not only that, their husbands die also. So now it's a good opportunity for them to realize this wasn't a good idea and go back to where they came from. And yet they decide no. By marrying to Machlin and Kilyon and getting to know their mother-in-law, Naomi, they really enjoyed it and they wanted to stay with it. And that's why they continue as we see weiter. The pasuk stresses, "Vatishoid ha'isha mishnei yeladel umeisha." So now Naomi remains alone. She's completely alone. Her husband died. Her two sons died. But pashtus, there were no grandchildren. So now she's really, really sad. Like she came here, the wife of a wealthy leader of the Yidden with two sons. Things were going good, and now she lost everything. She lost her husband. She lost her son. She lost her wealth, and now what's she gonna do weiter? So the pasuk continues in pasuk vav. V'atakom hi v'chaliseha v'atoshav mizdei moyov. She now makes the decision to go back home. Now, when you read the psukim, the first pasuk and a half, we always like to make the tzaddikim holier and holier, and the Rishonim more evil and more evil. So since Naomi comes out as a big star over here, it would be nice to say that Naomi wanted to go back the entire time, but her husband schlepped her along, and then when her husband died, her son said, no, we're marrying the non-Jewish woman, we're staying here, so she was stuck. Finally, her children died, not finally in a positive way, but meaning now she's not bound anymore, so therefore now I'm ready to go back home, back to Eretz Yisrael. This was a terrible mistake, but I didn't have a choice, now I'm going back home. That would be a nice way of making it even nicer. I mean, to this whole story of Naomi. However, the pasuk says, why did she go back? Ki shama bisdei moyov ki fakad Hashem es amai los Islam lochem. The pasuk seems to say that the reason why Naomi is going back is not because her husband and sons are not forcing her to stay anymore, rather because she found out that there is no hunger anymore in Eretz Yisrael. Meaning that even she might have stayed alone in Moav without her husband, without her sons, just because there was a hunger. But now that she knows that there's no hunger, that anyway there's no hunger, now she can go back. So that doesn't make it look so nice. But you could say it's a combination of both. It's the fact that she wasn't bound anymore. Some of Harshim do say so. Some of Harshim actually say so. But the reading of the pasuk seems more that she was going back because she heard that Hashem had taken away the hunger from Eretz Yisrael. Pasuk had also pointed out that she came her and her kalisah. What does a kala mean? A kala, today when we say kala, we mean a wife. The chadoidi likras kala also means a wife. However, in Torah, when it says kala, it means a daughter-in-law. So her and her two daughters-in-law get up and decide they're leaving Sdei Moav. They want to go back. Why do they want to leave? Maybe she wants to, because we said, what about her daughters-in-law? So they want to leave the pastures because they felt this is a very bad place. Look, since we settled over here, things just got bad for us. First, we lost all of our money, and now our husbands died. It's probably a bad place for us to live. We should get out of here and go somewhere else. So now the way the Mefarshim say it is that Naomi felt, okay, Moav is not for me. I'm leaving here. I'm going back to Eretz Yisrael. Her daughters-in-law, on the other hand, they felt, we're leaving here, we're going to go with Naomi, but Lav Davka back to Eretz Yisrael, as we'll see later. And Naomi also felt the same way, that I'm going to Eretz Yisrael, they just want to move out of this location, they'll find somewhere else. Another interesting observation is the pasuk calls them Kaliseh, her daughters-in-law. There's a big shaila, if a person passes away, is there still a connection to his in-laws? We know after Tafshin Memches, the Rebbe famously asked one of the Rabbanim, I forget who it was, the Rebbe asked him, is he still connected to the Frierdiker Rebbe? Because till now he was the Frierdiker Rebbe's son-in-law. But now that Rebbe Chamushka passed away, is he still connected? I forget what the Rebbe was, and the Rebbe Paskin Dia for sure, he's still connected. But here we see a source for that, because the pasuk calls Rus and Arpa her daughters-in-law, even though there were no grandchildren and her husbands died. Yeah.
If someone gets married to a non-Jew, is it considered like it's not a real marriage?
The pashtus, yes, but pashtus non-Jewish marriage. I mean, a Jew marrying a non-Jew is not considered a valid marriage according to Torah. So you have a question, but the Torah calls them daughters-in-law. That's regardless. The Navi calls them daughters-in-law. So they're called daughters-in-law. But even though their husbands died, so we see over here that connection remains. Now, if there's grandchildren, then for sure the connection is stronger because this is the parent of my grandchildren. Meaning a grandfather. Meaning Naomi could have said these women are the mothers of my grandchildren, so for sure they're connected to me. But here the chiddush is that there's no children, and yet the pasuk still calls them kaliseh. That shows that the connection remains even afterwards as well. So they all get up together, the three of them, Naomi and her two ex-daughters-in-law, but the pasuk says no, they're his daughters-in-law, they're her daughters-in-law, and they're now going towards Eretz Yisrael. Pasuk Zayin says, "V'teitze min hamokim asher haisa sham u'shtei chaliseha ima." She left the place where she was, her and her two daughters-in-law together with her. So here the pasuk is repeating itself. It just said this in pasuk Vav. So the same thing we have over here, we have in Chumash in Parshas Vayetze. It says by Yaakov Avinu that he left Beersheva, and it says that at the end of Parshas, I'm mixing up, Toildes, and then it says it again at the beginning of Vayetze. And over there, Rashi asks the same question: why did you repeat a second time that he left? And Rashi famously says, when a tzaddik leaves a city, pana ziva, pana hoida, pana adara. Oh, here, and Rashi brings Rus over, and actually there's a whole sikh of the Rebbe explaining the differences what Rashi says over here in Rus, and what he says in Parshas Vayetze. But the basic meaning is, the pasuk is stressing the point that when they left, it was noticeable. When a tzaddik leaves the town, you can tell that the tzaddik's gone. There was a certain kedusha in the city. There was a certain protection to the city as well. Less bad things happened. We have a story in the Gemara with Nachum Ish Gamzu, that when he was ill, he was in the house. It's a whole long story over there, how he told his Talmidim to first take everything out, and then when they took him out, the house collapsed. Because as long as Nachum Ish Gamzu is there, nothing bad's going to happen to the house. So similarly, when a tzaddik is in a town, nothing bad's going to happen to the town, and that's why when he leaves, it's noticeable in the city. So here as well, Naomi and Rus, when they're leaving, there was no. So the pasuk stresses them when they left, meaning you can see that they're gone, that there's a big difference in the city. So now they're traveling from Moav, they're going back to Eretz Yehuda, they're going back. So Naomi's mind, this was like we said, it was a mistake, whatever it is, now it's time to go back home, she's going there. But she assumes that her daughters-in-law, Rus and Arpa, just don't want to be in the place where it was all these tragic memories. A lot of times that happens after a person goes through a rough time, they want to move out of the house because it brings bad memories. So they want to move away from his day Moav. But Naomi didn't think that Rus and Arpa want to come along with her all the way. However, now that they're continuing and going towards Eretz Yehuda, she realizes that they're actually planning on coming along with her. She sees that they're continuing on the journey. So when she realizes that, Pasuk Ches, V'atoimer Naomi lishtei chaliseh, she tells her two daughters-in-law, Leichna shoivna isha leveis ima. You girls should go back, return each one of you to your mother's home. You can say each one of you would apply that they're separate mothers, they're not sisters, but you can learn it both ways. I don't think there's a proof either way. But she tells them, go and return. So first of all, everyone knows the concept in Yiddishkeit that when a person wants to, a non-Jew wants to become a ger tzedek, we know you're supposed to try to distract him, tell him that deter him, it's not a good idea, push him away. In Chazal it says you're supposed to push him away 3 times. I don't know if 3 times is specifically the number 3. Tell him 3 times no, 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 or it means like you push him away over and over again till you see that he's serious. And the source for 3 times is over here in these psukim. Many halachas of how to treat a ger, a geyeres, comes from the way Naomi treats Rus. And things that she told her afterwards as well. So when we'll see the next psukim, she tells them 3 times, Shoivna, 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 return, 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 and nevertheless they continued. And after 3 times, as we'll see, Arpa ends up going back, but Rustaka stays, and that's when Naomi accepts her. So she says, go back, each one you go back to your mother. There's no point in following, coming along with me. And then she gives them a blessing. She says, I really want to thank you guys for what you did for me till now. Yas Hashem, or Yas Hashem imachem chesed. Hashem should give you kindness. Kasher asisem im hamesim v'imadi. Just like you were kind to me, Hashem should pay you back. You were kind to the dead, to my sons, Hashem should pay you back. How were they kind? So Chazal say that really there's a halacha called the halacha of ksubas. Yeah, the halacha of ksuba means, anybody knows? What is it? What's a ksuba? Huh? When the marriage is over, either because the husband died or because there was a divorce, the money that the husband owned, part of it has to go to the woman to give her a ksuba, to pay her. So that ksuba, so now that Machlon and Killian died, really, there was a debt that was owed to Rus and Arpa. And we mentioned that they lost all their money. So since they lost all their money, now they have a demand to ksuba. So it could be, and some of us say this, that Naomi still had some kind of estate maybe going on over there, and it's clear, we'll see this later, an estate in Eretz Yisrael, and therefore, in theory, Rus and Arba can demand, we want that land. However, they were mevater. They told Rus, it's fine, you don't have to pay us back, you have to give us the ksuba, we're meichel on the ksuba. In addition to that, they were also involved in the kvura, in burying Machlon and Killian, which I never heard of this, but maybe somewhere in Moav today there's I don't know if it's in Jordan or Saudi Arabia, there might be some kvarim over there that are from Elimelech, Machlon, the Pashas, they're buried over there. And they're the ones that took care of the burial. So that's what she's saying, you guys were so good. Everyone knows that taking care of a dead person is called chesed shel emes. This is tremendous chesed that you did. Hashem should pay you back for this kindness, what you did for my sons. And v'imadi, you're taking care of me also. You're supporting me as well. I'm an older woman, and you guys are helping me out. I really appreciate what you did for me till now. And therefore, but it's time to go back home. You guys are still young. Again, it's unclear exactly how old Rus was. We said if she was the daughter of Eglon, she must have been very old. But either way, Naomi's telling them there's no point in you guys coming along with me, and you guys should go back. Pasuk Tes, Yitein Hashem lachem umitzena menucha. Hashem should bless you, you should find menucha. Menucha means tranquility, you should find calm and peace. Until now, these past years, you will hope to get married to this my wealthy sons and have a nice life, but it didn't work out the way you wanted to. You suffered a lot. So I'm blessing you now, you should go back home, find a good husband, and have menucha, and from now on, things should be good for you. Isha base Isha, each one of you should find a husband and stay with your new husband, and this way you'll have a happy life. Vatishak lehen, and then she kisses them goodbye. Vatisena koilon vatifkena, and then they started crying. So why did they start crying? Some of Harshim say they started crying because whenever you're someone that you like a lot and you have to say goodbye to them, it's emotional. So it's a normal thing to start crying. But then the Harshim say something a bit not so diplomatically correct when they say, women always cry, so it's not really a shaila. Whatever, they cried, obviously, women are crying. Whatever happens, the women start crying. But that's, whatever, it's a bit, I don't know if that's so, how accurate it is in this case. But either way, the pasuk says that they all cried together. Specifically, Rus and Arpa were crying about this, and they're basically, so now they're at a crossroads. So now they're basically told, no point in following along with Naomi. Naomi's saying, you guys go back home and get married over there. However, pasuk Yud, they tell her, Ki itach noshuv la'amich. No, we want to come with you. We want to go back to your nation. Now, the pasuk puts them together in the same sentence. Rus and Arpa together are saying, we want to come back with you, we want to come to you, to your nation. So there's differences in the Mefarshim. It's clear, the continuation of the story, that Arpa wasn't truly interested in becoming a Giyaris, because at the end she gets pushed away. So it shows that she wasn't really interested. Rus, on the other hand, is interested. So when they're saying it together, so it could be they said the same words, but some Mefarshim say, no, it's actually different words. Rather, the Ki'itach Nashuv, those words, I'm going with you, those are the words of Arpa. I want to just be with you. And Rus said, Noshuv la'amech, I want to go back to your nation. Meaning, Arpa definitely wanted to go along with Naomi because she liked her mother-in-law. She was a very good person. She wanted to hang out and continue with her. But Rus wasn't just about Naomi, it was about Yiddishkeit, because she had learned about Yiddishkeit, and she was excited about it, and she wanted to become Jewish, and she said, I want to come with you. Now we continue the conversation, and from the continuation of the conversation, it seems like there was another motive, at least of Arpa. And that was, Arba was saying, I want to come along with you, I want to marry one of your children. Meaning, I want to be your daughter-in-law again. Hopefully you'll get married and I'll marry your son, which Naomi will tell them that doesn't make any sense. You're an older woman already. If I have to get pregnant now, I have a child, you're going to marry someone that's going to be, whatever it is, 30, 40 years younger than you. This doesn't make sense as we continue. So from Naomi's way of speaking, it seems like she sensed in Arpa that it wasn't so much about the nation, it's more about her personally, connecting to her family. And for that, Naomi's saying, this makes no sense. There's no way you can connect to my family. So Pasuk Yud Aleph, Hatoimer Naomi, Shoivna V'Noisa. Second time she's saying, Shoivna, return, my daughters, go back. Here she calls them my daughters, because everybody's showing how much they're close to her, not just my daughters-in-law. And I mean, it's normal for a father-in-law, daughter, or mother-in-law to call their in-laws son and daughter, or sometimes you'll call your shver and shviga, you'll call them Abba, Ima, whatever. So it usually comes when there's a good connection. Either way, Naomi says, Lama seilachna imi, why should you come with me? This makes no sense. Ha'oidli banim b'meyai v'hayu lachem lanoshim. Do I have any children in my stomach that they can be married to you? So Naomi's sensing that it's a personal thing. They want to come with her because they can somehow connect to her family. So she's saying, I have no more children in my stomach, and there's no way you can marry my children. There's no way we can become mother-in-law, daughter-in-law again. And therefore, Pasuk Yud Beis, she says a third time, Shoivna v'noisai. Return my daughters, Leichna, go back home. And Kizokanti mihi yoslish. I'm too old, I can't get married anymore, meaning I can't have any children no more. Ki amarti ki yeshli sikva. There's hope that maybe I'll have children. Gam hayisi halayla leish v'gam yolada divanim. Even if I would marry a man tonight, even if I would have children, Yugimul halahein tisaberna. Are you going to wait and look till I have a child and see if they're going to marry this child? And you're going to wait till they get older. Are you going to sit around and wait now for another 10, 20 years to see? First of all, I'm not married. And if I would get married right away, right now, first they have to see if I have a child. It could be a girl also. It has to be a boy. And the boy you have to wait till he grows up. And you want to see if he's going to marry you and you're going to marry him. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make sense how we can continue this relationship of mother-in-law, daughter-in-law. It doesn't really make sense for you to sit around and wait. She uses the word teogena. Teogena comes from the word aguna. Aguna means a woman that her husband disappeared, so she's stuck. So she's using the same term to say, you want to just be stuck over here and sit around and wait to see what's going to happen. It really, really doesn't make sense. And she concludes by saying, Al benoisei, no, my daughters. Ki marli ma'oid mikem, I feel very bad for you. Ki yotza v'yad Hashem. And here she goes back to complaining about Genesis. Some of Farshim say that she's actually hinting to them that really part of this, the reason why I'm suffering is because of you. Because my sons married you, and you guys are not Jewish, and my son shouldn't have married you. And because of that, this is why I'm going through all the suffering. So she's hinting to them that, so to speak, I don't really want to have a connection with you anymore. That's what some of Farshim say. It's a bit odd because later she does accept Rus, but some of Farshim say that she's trying to hint to them that it's not a good idea. I mean, for me it wouldn't be good. Also, it'll be hard for me because it'll remind me of my sons that passed away, and therefore it's going to be bitter. But that's what the Mefarshim say. Most the simple way of reading it is she's just saying that I feel very bad for you, what you went through, and I feel bad for you to continue suffering and sitting around and waiting. There's no point in that, and just go back home and that's it. Hashem punished me enough, and I'm willing to deal with it myself. You guys go back home. Pasuk Yudalid, at this point, Vatisena koilon vatifkena oid. Again they raised their voices, and again they cried more. Again, the Mefarshim say what we said before, why they cried, and which proves the point. And the conversation, crying again, and then at this point, Vatishak Arpa lachamaisa verus dafkaba. At this point, Arpa gets the message. She kisses her mother-in-law goodbye, and she says, "I understand it doesn't make sense. I love you. We had such a good relationship. It's so sad that we have to part our ways. Bye." However, Ruth says, "I'm staying. I'm continuing along with you. I'm staying here." So it's like, the Mefarshim don't discuss this, but it's interesting what the conversation between Rus and Arpa was. Like Rus and Arpa were seemingly together till now in the same boat. They're both, we want to go, you want to go. And now Arpa basically got convinced to leave. So as Arpa was leaving, did she turn to Rus, okay, come, forget about it? Or did Rus tell her, no, we better stay here? I don't know exactly how that worked. I didn't see anyone talking about it. It just says that Arpa said goodbye and Rus stayed there. But Rus decided she's staying along with Naomi, and she doesn't want to go back to be Mayav. What this means is, obviously, as a continuation, is that Rus is not just about the personal, the person Naomi that she loves her. Rather, Rus understood what Yiddishkeit's about, and Rus wants to become a Giyaris. And that's why she wants to come along with Naomi to Eretz Yisrael.